Dong Zhuo's chaos and the warlord contest, the collapse of central Han authority and dawn of the Three Kingdoms, Chapter 1189 CE, the palace coup that destroyed Han central power. In 189 CE, before the flames of the Yellow Turban uprising fully faded, a fatal internal conflict erupted inside the crumbling Eastern Han court. Shortly after Emperor Ling's death, decades of accumulated hatred between the He consort clan and the powerful eunuch faction finally reached a boiling point. General He Jin secretly plotted to exterminate all palace eunuchs. Yet, he made an extremely controversial and fateful decision. He summoned frontier warlord Dong Zhuo to Luoyang, intending to use external military force to suppress court rivals. This reckless imperial summons unlocked an unprecedented national catastrophe. No court official foresaw that this power-balancing maneuver would completely annihilate the nearly 200-year-old Han central government. Blood flooded the streets of Luoyang. The young reigning emperor was taken hostage by war troops. The imperial capital was looted and burned into ruins. Provincial governors and local administrators witnessed the Han's extreme fragility. They openly refused to obey imperial edicts from the weakened court. The chaotic age of warlord separatism officially began. Based on records of the Three Kingdoms and Book of Later Han, this documentary answers three critical historical questions. First, why did He Jin stubbornly insist on summoning Dong Zhuo? What avoidable political mistakes triggered the deadly palace catastrophe? Second, after seizing control of Luoyang, how did Dong Zhuo's brutal, tyrannical policies erase the Han Dynasty's last possibility of restoration? Third, the Guangdong coalition possessed overwhelming military strength to campaign against Dong Zhuo. Why did the allied warlords fall into vicious infighting and disband without achieving any decisive victory? A coup originally designed to eliminate internal political threats ended up inviting a ferocious frontier warlord into the heart of the empire. One single reckless military summons shattered the Han Dynasty's final line of defense. Chapter 2: He Jin's death and Dong Zhuo's seizure of power. 189 CE. After Emperor Ling's passing, Prince Liu Bian officially ascended the Han throne. Empress Dowager. He administered state affairs as regent, while General He Jin held core military and political authority. Encouraged and urged by scholar official Yuan Shao, He Jin resolved to completely wipe out the deeply entrenched eunuch clique. Empress Dowager. He opposed a brutal wholesale massacre of palace servants. To force the court into submission, Yuan Shao proposed a risky scheme. He suggested summoning frontier generals to march toward Luoyang, leveraging external military pressure to coerce the imperial court. At this critical moment, Cao Cao openly objected to the plan. He argued that only the eunuch ringleaders deserved punishment. Bringing outside armies into the capital would inevitably ignite catastrophic chaos. However, his rational warning was completely ignored. Before the troop summons took effect, the conspiracy leaked in advance. Fearing elimination, the eunuchs struck first in a deadly ambush. They lured He Jin into the palace and assassinated him. Enraged troops, loyal to He Jin, stormed into the palace, launching a massive, retaliatory slaughter of all eunuchs. Luoyang fell into chaotic, uncontrolled street fighting. Amid the capital's bloody turmoil, Dong Zhuo's battle-hardened Xiliang cavalry arrived outside Luoyang. He successfully located the exiled young Emperor Liu Bian and Prince Liu Xie. Relying on his powerful frontier military force, Dong Zhuo easily seized full control of the chaotic capital city. He absorbed all remaining soldiers under He Jin's command, incorporated Ding Yuan's elite Bingzhou army, and won over the formidable warrior Lu Bu through persuasion and rewards. Within merely several days, all military forces stationed in Luoyang fell under his absolute command. The long-standing power balance of the Luoyang court completely collapsed. The imperial capital finally fell entirely under frontier warlord rule. Short-sighted advisors and an indecisive supreme commander unleashed uncontrollable palace slaughter, voluntarily clearing the path for warlord dictatorship. Chapter 3. Chaos in the capital. Emperor deposition and turmoil. Shaking the realm. 189 CE. After firmly securing control of Luoyang, Dong Zhuo sought full dominance over state governance. He carried out an unprecedented political rearrangement that shocked the whole nation. He formally removed the reigning emperor Liu Bian from power. In his place, Dong Zhuo installed Prince Liu Xie on the throne, who would later be known in history as Emperor Xian of Han. Shortly after the imperial restructuring, the former emperor and empress dowager, he passed away under unstable court conditions. This unilateral adjustment of imperial succession broke the long-standing political traditions valued by Confucian elites. Civil servants across the empire fell into deep unease. Many loyal court officials chose to leave the capital and relocate to eastern regional territories, refusing to align with the new power structure. Dong Zhuo's governance was extremely harsh and authoritarian. His Xiliang troops acted without restraint, disturbing local households and disrupting public order within the capital. Panic quickly spread throughout Luoyang. Dong Zhuo took charge of all official appointments, granting high ranks to his closest allies and suppressing opposing political voices. Insightful scholar officials recognized his true intentions. They understood that Dong Zhuo had no plan to restore stable rule for the Han Dynasty. His core strategy was to keep the imperial family under his influence and control the central plains through military strength. In 190 CE, regional governors east of the Hanggu Pass assembled local defense forces. They jointly selected Yuan Shao as their unified leader and separated their regional governance from the capital's authority. The political division of the Han realm became fully visible. From this point onward, the Han emperor became a symbolic figure, trapped amid competing regional forces. Dong Zhuo's unprecedented imperial rearrangement broke the centuries-old political order. It provided local governors with legitimate grounds to organize independent regional defenses and establish autonomous governance outside central control. Chapter 4. Anti-Dong Coalition, Warlord Selfishness, and Hollow Alliance. 190 CE. The anti-Dong coalition army encamped at Suanzhao, possessing overwhelming numerical advantage over enemy forces. Yet, the allied troops remained stationary for months on end. Every regional warlord cautiously guarded their own military strength, unwilling to take the initiative to fight and suffer heavy losses. Against this passive deadlock, Cao Cao strongly urged immediate action. He proposed a full westward advance toward Luoyang to rescue the court. Receiving no support from the hesitant warlords, Cao Cao marched westward with his troops alone. He suffered a devastating defeat against Dong Zhuo's elite forces and was forced to retreat in desperation. This crushing battlefield loss awakened Cao Cao completely. He realized a harsh truth. All regional warlords prioritized territorial expansion and self-preservation rather than rescuing the emperor or reviving the crumbling Han Dynasty. Deeply threatened by the coalition's overall strength, Dong Zhuo adopted cruel and desperate countermeasures. He issued a ruthless relocation order, forcing Emperor Xian and the entire imperial court to move west to Chang'an. His troops set the entire capital Luoyang on fire. The 200-year-old imperial city was burned into ashes and ruins. Grand palaces, official residences, and civilian houses were completely destroyed. Innocent, ordinary people were brutally compelled to migrate westward. Countless exhausted civilians died on the brutal journey. The once prosperous imperial capital turned into a desolate, scorched wasteland. After Dong Zhuo relocated the court to Chang'an, the allied warlords still remained trapped in mutual suspicion and hesitation. As military food supplies gradually ran low, ferocious internal conflicts erupted within the coalition. The Grand Anti-Dong Alliance finally dissolved in chaos, without achieving any decisive victory against a tyrant. Eastern warlords abandoned the righteous crusade and turned to fight one another frantically for territory and power. The righteous banner of punishing tyranny completely lost its binding power. The coalition ostensibly fought for loyalty to the Han Dynasty, while every warlord secretly pursued private gain and dominance. Once the righteous cause failed to bring territorial profits, the fragile alliance collapsed instantly and irreversibly. Chapter 5. Dong Zhuo's downfall, Chang'an Coup, and complete national disorder, 192 CE. After shifting the imperial court to Chang'an, Dong Zhuo became ever more arrogant and unrestrained. He constructed the enormous Mei fortress, stockpiling massive reserves of grain and armaments to sustain long-term separatist domination. Senior Minister Wang Yun secretly devised a plot to assassinate him. Wang Yun took advantage of the growing friction between Dong Zhuo and his most trusted general, Lu Bu. He persuaded Lu Bu to turn against his lord. In 192 CE, Lu Bu slew Dong Zhuo outside Weiyang Palace. The tyrant who had thrown the whole realm into turmoil was dead. Ordinary people across Chang'an rejoiced at the news. Yet catastrophe was far from over. Dong Zhuo's huge Xiliang army was left leaderless. The generals submitted requests for official amnesty from the court. Wang Yun adopted an unyielding hardline stance and rejected all pardons. Terrified of facing execution, Li Jue and Guo Si followed the advice of strategist Jia Xu. They rallied scattered Xiliang troops and launched an assault on Chang'an. The capital city fell to the rebel army. Wang Yun was put to death, while Lu Bu fled the city in defeat. After seizing command of the imperial court, Li Jue and Guo Si soon descended into brutal civil war with one another. Guanzhong was trapped in years of continuous combat and massive refugee crises. Emperor Xian endured repeated displacement and constant peril. From this point onward, the central government permanently lost authority over provincial regions. China fully entered the age of open warlord rivalry. Yuan Shao, Cao Cao, Yuan Shu, Liu Biao, Gongsun Zan, and numerous others, each held sway over separate, independent territories. Removing the tyrant marked merely the starting point. A successful coup without conciliatory governing policies only unleashed yet another round of devastating warfare across the land. Chapter 6. Historical Review. Dong Zhuo's turmoil as a historic dividing line. Dong Zhuo's political intervention marks the most critical turning point in the late Eastern Han historical trajectory. Before this unprecedented institutional crisis, the Han Dynasty still maintained nominal governance over the nation. Local administrators theoretically recognized central authority and remained institutionally obedient to the imperial court. After Dong Zhuo's disruptive interference, the century-old central governing system declined irreversibly. provincial officials gradually evolved into autonomous regional powers. The Han Emperor became a purely symbolic ruler, stripped of all practical administrative authority. Reviewing the full historical timeline reveals a complete chain of causation. Emperor Guangwu's early compromises with local influential clans planted the initial institutional vulnerabilities. Successive minor emperors created recurring power gaps within the court, allowing alternating dominance between consort clans and palace attendants. The harsh partisan restrictions alienated core scholar elites, breaking the vital trust between the central government and social pillars. The Yellow Turban social movement erupted from long-accumulated public dissatisfaction. The court's emergency delegation of military authority granted legitimate military autonomy to regional forces. He Jin's risky decision to summon frontier troops eventually introduced disruptive external influence into the capital system. Layers of overlapping institutional and social crises ultimately led to the full breakdown of national governance order. Dong Zhuo alone was not the fundamental cause of the Han decline. He merely served as the final trigger for long-term institutional weakness and social transformation. Even without Dong Zhuo's intervention, the fading of central authority and the rise of regional autonomy had already become an irreversible historical trend. The gradual transition toward regional competition and the Three Kingdoms era was fundamentally unavoidable. Large-scale dynastic transformation never results from a single person's actions. Major imperial shifts always originate from long-standing structural flaws. Dong Zhuo's capital intervention officially initiated the Han Dynasty's final transition, closing the long-standing Han ruling era and ushering in the turbulent Three Kingdoms period. Chapter 7. Closing recap and next episode teaser. After Dong Zhuo's death, Chang'an sank into brutal civil strife between rival Xiliang generals. Meanwhile, Eastern warlords clashed with one another endlessly. The Han Dynasty survived merely in name. Unbridled, nationwide chaos took hold across all territories. The magnificent age of the Three Kingdoms rivalry officially commenced. Unchecked power inevitably spawns tyranny. Alliances built without shared vital interests are doomed to collapse. As the centuries-old old order faded away, a stormy new era began to reshape ancient China. In our previous episode, we traced the Eastern Han's trajectory, from prosperity all the way to irreversible collapse. Today's chapter covered Dong Zhuo's uprising, alongside the rise and ultimate disintegration of the anti-Dong coalition. Next episode, the rise of Cao Cao, holding the emperor to command the warlords. Subscribe to follow our late Han historical chronicle and witness the pivotal chapter of the Great Warlord Contest.